Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing our Ibn Battuta run, currently playing as Egypt in the Ancient Age. At the very start of the run, which was last episode, we did use in particular a strategy based around using expansionist attributes points, two of which we got from Ibn, the wildcard attribute points, and one we got from our Groma memento in order to really try and abuse the gold and sapphire flowers memento. In this way, we were able to gain 300 food in the capital in the very early game when that 300 food is insanely valuable, allowing us to kind of slingshot to a very, very explosive start. On turn 3, we had over 10, or we had 10 production and 11 food. This was very, very explosive. It has allowed us to kind of pull ahead of the AI, despite the AI having big bonuses to yields on the deity difficulty, and in theory, this should be the segment in which they are more out in front of us than any other one, but we are still doing very well in Wasset. However, we do have a war here, as Frederick has declared war on us, and this is going to give us a bit of tension, in addition to the Indies being relatively strong here, having a whole ton of units, and so we are going to be playing on the defensive here. Fortunately, we actually have a pretty nice unit for playing on the defensive in the Magi, which gains +3 combat strength on friendly territory, doubled when stationed in a settlement we own for +6, and so we can park these guys in settlements in order to try and play defense. We're planning on settling down here, roughly close to where Neapolis got settled, but that's no longer going to be a vibe, so we are going to head back up this way and try and find a spot to settle, and hopefully not get accosted by Frederick. Now, we have kind of two spots in mind. We can either settle over here and get double gypsum, marble, and silk, or we can settle kind of over here and gain access to marble, iron, gypsum, silk. Not really sure which of these is better, but these are the two we're looking at, mainly because this is going to be the fastest settle we have. I think that this settle over here might be a little bit better, where we would be looking to gain access to camels, maybe do something like right here, where we would hit the camels, we would hit the sheep, we would hit the dyes, and we would hit a few desert tiles, which are going to be good for our unique buildings that we are playing here as Egypt in the Mastaba, where we will be gaining gold adjacency for desert terrain, and also gold adjacency for rivers and wonders. Of course, no rivers on this area. A little bit unfortunate in our overall role for this seed that we only have access to this navigable river, but it is going to be quite good for us, and as you can see here, we are getting quite a bit of yields, and so this is going to be useful. In terms of our cities, we have here Wasset, which was catapulted up to be absolutely enormous, currently working on the Hidden Gardens, and we have Jeannette, which is going to get a nice boost on the next turn here with masonry, giving extra production on mines and quarries. They're currently working a couple mines. We have a mine here. We're going to have a mine here soon, which is going to help us to defend with the extra combat strength. We got a mine over here. We're probably going to pick up mines and clay pits over here and here, so this is going to be pretty good for us, and this is going to be our secondary city. Also currently working on a Matsaba, one of these unique buildings, which is going to have a total of 6 adjacencies here for the desert. It's a really nice square for that there, after which I believe that we were working on but have an unfinished brickyard that we need to get a unit off of this square in order to finish up and really ramp up production here in the city. So unfortunately, we do see Frederick approaching from a bit of an odd angle that we were not prepared for. We were hoping he'd approach from this angle. We have 3 units, and we were hoping he trips over the barbs in such a way that the barbs would fight him, he would fight the barbs, and in doing so, they would help to take care of each other, but that is not the case with him having units approaching from the south, so that is going to be a bit unfortunate for us. I think what we're going to do is we're going to say that we just can't clear this barb camp in the near future here, and we instead want to start bringing back the Magi's as best we can, and the other units, in order to defend against this 2-stack coming in. We're maybe going to have to buy a unit out of Wasset. Hopefully not. We do have 100 buy price on them right now because we do have a discount, courtesy of the silver here, and so if we want to buy them, they will be 100 gold, and so this is maybe something that we end up doing, but if we can avoid doing it, we're going to try and avoid doing it. We're going to move up onto writing now. We do need to get the tech going a little bit. We get the alerts, and we have our settler. I think we're going to greed. I think greed is good. I think we're going to go for this settle right here, which is going to give us 4 resources in total here. It is going to have a slight a bit of overlap of 2 squares with Jeanette, but that is overall going to be okay. Gypsum's going to be quite nice. We don't really have the slots quite yet for gypsum, but as we upgrade other things to cities, we should be in good shape. We also have the slinger over here, which is going to help us against the barbs. We're just going to look to slow roll this and play defensively, utilizing the bonuses that we have for the Magi's, and probably try and pull these guys back to the city, especially if they attack east and west here. We are going to have more opportunities to play defense. So we see that we are eating some damage. Really just going to look to kind of bring things back a little bit, heal up, and play this slow, because we have a good bonus while we are on our own settlements, and also yeah, we see another guy coming in. So definitely good that we decided to pull back here. We are going to be... I think he can attack us if we move there. Here we'll be a little bit safer, but we'll have to recross the river. So a little bit of an awkward spot here. The other Magi will come forward. And so this one can come into the settlement. And with the settlement, in the settlement, he will have 6 total defense, and he will be able to heal up while the other one is coming up. This settlement's not defenseless. What are you talking about? But we will get off a nice settle right here, and we will be able to, in this town, slot some stuff in. So we're going to take a look at our resources here. We do see that we have a ton of these +2/+2 resources of various kinds, and we have in the city of Jeanette +2 food, +2 production. So what we're going to do is we are going to go for this. I think what we're going to do is, if we take a look at this town in terms of what we can do with it, we see we have a few clay pit potentials, which is going to be quite nice. We know that we're going to have 3 mines, and so if we go mining oriented rather than chopping oriented, I think overall this will be better. We might end up doing both, but with that in mind, I think what we're going to do is we are going to want to work this tile, this 1-2 tile, and so we will grab this tile in order to grab these gypsum here. And then we will have an additional resource available, and this is worth 4 if it is in any city but the capital, in which case it's worth 2. This is also worth 4, but the food is a little bit better in the town, so we're going to slot this over and move the production over to Jeanette, which is going to be perfect for us right now. And this place will be a little bit defenseless, a little bit vulnerable, so what we're going to do is we're going to move this guy over, we're going to heal him up, and then we might watchtower here. That way we can see if multiple units are approaching, and if so, we can tailor our strategy in regards to our gold based on how things are kicking out there. We do have 2 scouts still, or another scout up here, just kind of looking to kick some stuff and discover the area, but I think we are kind of stabilizing from a very scary position here at the start. We are going to be able to heal up. Did they push us through? No, that was the death of the commander. So we do see a little bit of, not friendly fire, but our 2 enemies fighting each other, which is going to help out. We're going to move this guy in here. This guy will be able to sling right across, and I think that we're in pretty good shape here. They're going to have a hard time getting onto us, and we are going to be able to heal up this Magi and repel this offensive here. And there's not going to be any more units behind coming from this angle. They just happen to all be over here. I think they were heading on over to clear out the barbs before they decided that they didn't want to clear out the barbs. That certainly would make sense to me. Definitely AI is not known for attacking at odd angles, even though in theory this is probably a good thing to do. But we are going to... let's take this guy out, I think. And we are also going to want to take out this barb camp as well here. But this could have gone a lot spookier. I was expecting a lot more units, but it really just feels like we're so far ahead relative to normal because we have such an explosive first city here, I think. And so we're going to slowly be able to whittle them down and get to... I think that the scout's going to come the other way. Hatshepsut's now friendly with us. She wasn't friendly before. Why don't we go for a farmer's market here? She accepts. And if we go for open borders, we will be able to scout through her, which I think is a worthwhile endeavor. So we will be heading up that way and taking a look at what happens here. Yeah, he's just pushing in a little bit. We do see some more units out of Frederick, but really this isn't going to be enough, and we just have to defend and heal up. And healing these guys up was important for taking Assur anyways. I think that we're just going to play defense until they get too close to us on the river, so this Magi can heal. And then if he comes onto this square, or if someone with more health comes onto this square and is threatening the Slinger, then we'll, you know, kind of pull the trigger on actually attacking with our melee units, but we're in good shape. We do have a little bit of a decision here, in that we could go for... We can't go for that. Because that's on top, some guy's on top of that. We can't repair it. I can't tell if he dismantled it, but it's interesting we can't go for this tile. I was going to say it would maybe be reasonable to go for the silver, but also currently we're producing a wonder, and this gives us plus 10 production towards the wonder, so that was on 5 turns. You can see here for the Hanging Gardens, and now if we do this, it will improve our wonder production, specifically on tropical, plains, and desert. We're going to be producing a lot of our wonders on desert, so we're going to go for this and see if it affects the turns count required, as we also look to take out this forward offensive. I think we're in good shape. Yeah, there's not another unit here, and so maybe we move this guy down. Hope that he attacks us. We're going to heal up. We do want to take combat in our territory because we get plus 3 combat there, and we can see here them fighting with each other is quite nice, because I think that we are going to be able to, off the back of that, not have to buy a unit and instead be able to save up and afford, not quite yet, but afford a brickyard here in Abju, or to save up and be able to upgrade this to a city. We can go to a growing town, in a fishing town if we wanted to, instead of being on a growing town, but I think we're going to stay on growth until we get the last of these 3 resources. So we're going to sling down this guy here, and then we can go for this guy, or we could just heal up the Magi. We might need to use, we actually might need to recruit a unit. Can we not attack that? We can't attack that. Fair enough. So we will heal up. And I think that this guy, actually, we maybe want to bring over to the left. Depending on what they do with Wasset, things might get a little bit tricky, but he is healing up right now. We have another growth over here and a little bit of a decision point. We have plus 10 silk, but we would not be able to slot this in. We can also go for a mine, knowing that the mines are something that we're going to utilize, and this plus 10% production on wonders in grassland, tundra, and marine terrain, not going to be useful for us in the immediate future, but we are going to probably want to be working this mine eventually if we do go mine oriented. The clay pit would also be satisfactory, and this does give us the most yields, so maybe this makes some sense. You know, also just getting an additional cultural yield I think makes sense, so we'll do this even though we can't slot in the even though we can't slot in the resource. I think that the culture yield, just the fact that this is 4 yields, it's somewhat reasonable, and if we get another slot we will be able to slot in the silk, I think is good enough for us here. We have a whopping 15.6 production here in Jeanette, and we are going to finish the brickyard that we started. We do have low happiness though, so that is unfortunate. It is a sad thing, but our people will have to deal with it. We have one more turn on the Hanging Gardens here, so it does look like the Ivory did end up getting us another turn worth of production in the capital. We have the scout coming through Sepshit's territory, and you know, things are looking pretty cleaned up here, so we don't necessarily need to monitor the combat so close, given that our guys are healing up. Frederick is not really... Well, it's almost like he doesn't have a pulse here. He had the units coming in, but he didn't utilize them, so not much to be done here. And on the left side, we have dealt with these guys who have moved up the river, and so now we are going to come back to dealing with the Barb camp here. We're going to just try and heal up both of our Magi's as best we can, because we will need both these Magi's whacking Assur along with the Slinger to really take it out at a decent clip, and we don't necessarily need to worry too much about being safe, and so we're going to come in with the scout, discovering a little bit of new territory, but we are going to be finishing the Hanging Gardens here. We have a little bit of gold. I think that we don't quite go for the upgrade on the city we have to the left, but we are going to have a nice production here of the Hanging Gardens. Again, Hanging Gardens is not so useful for us in the city that we built it in, but it will give additional growth rate in cities, which will allow them to come up. You can see we have around 24 turns in order to gain a pop. This is gaining pop in 2 turns. Pretty strong here. We could turn this into a food center, but I don't think it's going to quite pay out that well. We do have a diplomatic agreement here. We're going to go with the culture with Hatshepsut, which is really helping to carry us in this early phase. Truly, the point at which we are quite weak is the fact that we do not have a lot of culture. We'll come on over in order to clear out this guy, but I think that we're just in good shape here. From the Hanging Gardens, though, we do get another expansionist point, which is going to be great for us. Also, when we put it down, we're going to gain 100 food, which is the equivalent of 3 turns worth of food in the capital, which is going to be pretty nice. And we are going to have a faster growth rate in the capital, which is also going to be nice. So we're going to go with the plus 15% yields in towns with specialization, or 30 in distant lands. This will scale excellently into the following age here. But maybe we want to consider a specialization here. This is going to be a very strong, eventually, fishing town. In fact, I think that with our current gold situation and the fact that we've cleaned stuff up a bit, we're going to purchase a fishing key right here, which is going to make all of the people who are currently employed in that fishing boat unemployed, which is going to give us a little bit of a growth here, and I think we're going to use it on the very strong navigable river tiles that we have. Keep working our way up towards the silver, just in case we need to buy some units. But with this, with that purchase of an additional guy, we can think about going for the fishing town. We would get an additional 15% yields on top of +4 from the current fishing stuff we're working, and we would just grow a bit slower, but instead be shipping the food over to Wasset, who's currently getting 32 food. I think if we slot that in, we'd probably be doubling that, roughly speaking, and so maybe we would have growth in even 1 turn here. We were on 3 turns before, and now we're on 1 turn, or sorry, 2 turns. We can bring it to 1. And so I think I kind of like this idea, although we would be getting slower growth here. This is going to be a very good fishing town, and the fact that we have additional yields, it is going to propel us up quite a bit. Not to the point where it's a next turn, but I suppose that's fine enough. We could also just peel a turn, another turn with the 50% growth rate here, rather than spending it over. But if you take a look, the fact that we generate additional yields that are getting converted into production and additional gold, I think it's going to be worth it for us to be on the town for now and have a little bit of a slower growth. We do have production choices here to make up, and we have to think about where it is we want to put our unique buildings, which will get gold adjacency for desert tiles. This is what we can build right now, but happiness adjacency for navigable rivers and wonders. So we are going to have opportunities kind of for both. So when we take a look at the Matsuba, we know that we have right here a wonder and a potential for another spot to build a wonder, maybe over here. We don't have any adjacencies for navigable rivers, but we are going to have some adjacent desert, I think. Here's an adjacent desert. This might be a desert tile. This is not a desert tile. So we would have a 4-3 over here, but knowing we have to stack the building that gets a bonus on navigable rivers over here makes this particularly attractive as well, because we're going to hit 3 navigable rivers slots for an additional happiness amount. We don't really have great sources of happiness, so I'm kind of into putting this district down here in terms of what we're producing here. For Jeanette, we are unhappy. Are we really unhappy or super unhappy? Not truly, but I think that it would make sense for us to produce the altar then, given that this is going to give us a lot more, growth as well. I think that we are liking building it on top of City Hall. But we could also build it across on this brickyard, looking to complete the quarters. I think either of these options is good. Both will take up an adjacency for both a resource and a mountain. And so I think they're fairly interchangeable. It's just a question of which ageless building do we want to build it over, which I don't think is particularly substantive. We are going to pick up a discipline here, which is going to give us a commander, which is going to be quite nice. Were this fight feeling actually difficult, I think we're going to bring the commander over here so that he can maybe supervise the finishing off here. That would leave us with a minor defeat. We're looking to get the commander experience, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we can quite get it. But we will bring this guy over for our push into Sio Ribal. I think over here we might even be taking this down this turn, not giving him a chance to heal up, and just kind of crushing over this. This is going to be where we want our next settlement in this region, but also we want to have these troops heal up and be freed up to be able to come over here. I think that we're going to want to settle here, and I think we're going to want to settle before Matse grows too much. We don't have enough stuff to buy a building, or buy a settler rather, but we did finish production here, and we do have a growth. I think we're just going to build a settler here, and look, we have monstrous amounts of construction, and then we're going to bring the settler to settle this tile here, from which we will be able to work if we can grab the tiles fast enough, the marble, the sheep, and also the very critical camels, which will allow us to make use of all of our resources, which are currently not in use. So I do think that this is going to be a really good next city. In terms of yields, we are gaining the most generally from our navigable river spots, but we don't have any more of those remaining. Inclined to grab the 3 production over here, and so we do, and hey, that'll make it so the settlers produced in 2 turns. Absolute monstrous amount of construction for this phase of the game. 24 construction. We also are achieving, because we went expansionist early, we are getting extra production towards settlers, so that does help out quite a bit. We don't mind going over on the happiness too much. I think we're going to grab this tile down here. It's going to give us 3 production, which is quite valuable, but also a little bit of extra combat strength on the military units. In theory, we probably should have grabbed that before doing any sort of combats, and we're going to have an opportunity to gain a new thing. I think that Code of Laws for the merchant would make some sense here. I think the Egyptian civics also would make sense. Get this mortuary temple. We do have in both of our cities the other half of this, and this allows us to gain 100 gold every time we produce a wonder. I think doing this into building wonders is going to play quite nicely for us, and also this is the next plus settlement limit that I think we can get a little bit easily. We don't see a plus settlement limit on any of these, and so going for this is going to allow us to avoid the negative happiness that we get once we do settle this new city over here. Frederick's also nowhere in sight. We do see a changing of the guards here on this city-state, but Frederick not really having too good a game. There's possible that we want to try and incite raid. We haven't really seen incite raid be too successful, but if Neapolis got raided and sacked, this would be good for us. And I think that we're going to march on Neapolis, knowing that we want to get these camels as well. So this is going to be maybe our 5th city we will want to have in this region after placing our 6th city after placing our 5th city over here, looking to pick up both the sheep and the marble. So we are starting to get quite a bit of gold coming in. We have a lot coming from each of our towns. We have 12 coming from this new fresh town and 22 coming from this town over here. And so we have a little bit of an inflection point as to where we spend our gold. I think what we're going to do is we're going to spend in Jeanette, because we could get a pretty strong granary here for a total of +5 yields. We could get a granary here that has a +4 yield, and this would you know, we have the accelerated growth rate. We could also get a brickyard here. Both of these are pretty reasonable, and the granary would allow us to snag more of these resources, but we're still currently crimped on slots, and so gaining additional resources isn't going to have the full value, so I think we're going to buy the granary in here. We're just going to buy it on top of the capital, looking to finish our quarter here. We do have our unique quarter that will come in here later, but also we are going to set ourselves up to, once we finish this, we will have writing complete, and so we will have an opportunity to build a library and start to catch up on these science yields of which we are so deficient. So we have a city-state that is pretty far north and is not particularly close to anyone's borders other than Lafayette here. We're hoping that Lafayette doesn't disperse them because we're floating quite a bit of influence, and so we are going to befriend them and see what we can get going and see if we can get their bonus in time. With this extra influence, we're going to to hang on to this. We do want to stay above 60 so we can accept agreements as they come in, and we are starting to move some troops over to the right to deal with, or help deal with, Frederick. He did get a nice little bit of damage onto us here on our warrior, on our Magi, but that's okay. We're just going to come back into the capital and heal up and look to just keep defending here. We also have a library coming down here in this district right on top of the granary. It's going to be a 4-1 library, which is going to be nice for us, and as promised, we do have the potential to do another library here. We get an adjacency for in particular resources. We have a nice little resource squeeze here, so inclined to put it here, and I think that we will put it there. It is going to build over something that can go mine though, which is a little bit unfortunate because I think we are leaning mine, whereas this builds over something that can build farm. It's actually a little bit of a rough spot. I actually think we put it here, but this is an outstanding adjacency for both culture buildings and science buildings, which is a bit unfortunate because we do have the double resource here and also the double mountain here. So we're just going to do this. It's going to be a little bit better early on, and I think that eventually we do want to work both this tile and this tile, which maybe makes the putting a mine up there, or sorry, putting up there a science building a little bit off limits. So we find ourselves in a bit of an awkward situation in terms of the diplomacy. We would love to avoid fighting two people here on the mainland and maintain good relations. However, unfortunately, Hatshepsut is currently at war with Lafayette, so if we ally with her, we will also be at war. But we don't want to hurt our relations with Hatshepsut more than we're already going to by settling near her, but we are going to decline her alliance, and we are going to settle near her, and so we hope that we can maintain decent relations with her despite this fact. Now, as we start to accumulate a little bit more Diplo, we might look to boost this up. We are currently experiencing pain in the war to the extent that we are now suffering negative happiness. I think that we do want to get out of this. Just the question is do we want to we have endeavors that are ending that we might want to renew, that we will not have sufficient diplomacy to renew, and, well, his troops aren't really coming in, and so maybe we just don't need to do anything until we see troops, and we keep ourselves open to boosting up our towns, which we currently have 2 towns, their food production, but also another town, potentially. Now, here's the crux of the issue, or an issue here. We're not sure where we want to settle. We will get access to quite a few more tiles if we settle one more to the left, because we are up against her, and we are, to a lesser extent, up against one of our own cities already, and this will free us up with a lot of tiles. But the flip side is that, well, this is freshwater, this is not freshwater, and so that's a -5 happiness on the yields if we settle off of it. I think we settle off of it. I'm not 100% sure though. Alright, so we keep getting rewarded here playing Ibn Batu with an additional wildcard attribute point. This will start a quest, but culture in all settlements is attractive, but I think we would rather work our way towards this attribute point, which we will be able to use to go expansionist. We are going to be putting the monument in that really good square where everything's also good as well. Finishing up the quarter here, we did have both of our science districts complete, so that's +8 science for us. Now we are building in both of our cities monuments. We are definitely going to need new things to build, but fortunately, we do have the arrival of Happy, which is going to make us very happy, which will allow us to complete our unique district. We've decided to go for this one for the full greed play, looking to get kind of as much as possible. It's possible that we should go for multiple cities here, and we are going to be losing the dies in terms of any reasonable city. Actually, this is a reasonable looking city, but we're just going to go here, and we are going to see Hatshepsut immediately is, what the hell, dog? We settled too close to her, and we rejected her alliance. So us getting another agreement with her is unlikely, so we will probably use our Diplo on Frederick, but now we have been saving our gold for a very specific purpose, which is going to be getting these tiles without having any interference. Now, in terms of evaluating what it is we're going for, we know we're going to have at least one mine here, but we're probably going to have more sawmills, or we have the potential for, we're going to have two mines rather. We have potential for sawmills in terms of enabling production. We do have the camp, which is going to lean into the sawmills, so we're going to want a combination of some of these things. I think that what we're going to do is we are going to look to, we can also buy an altar. The altar is a little bit attractive because we are in negative happiness currently. And we also have 2 grow towns to work with. Let's have a little bit of a think, because we can do a lot of shenanigans here to lock in both the tiles. Okay, I think we've got the strategy. We were thinking a little bit that we could evict and use that tactic to gain an additional expand, except we can't because this is a town instead of a city, and we definitely want to grab the gold before we do anything else. So we're gonna grab the gold, and now the buildings that were costing 220 now cost 180, which is fantastic, but we have to place an emphasis on food very shortly here, and so we're gonna go food right here. The idea being that we need to grow our town before he grows his. We see that we're on 4-4, which is a little bit yikesy, but then with this additional 3 food, we do come on down to growing in 3 turns, and the idea in 3 turns is going to be that we are going to buy yet another warehouse building. I think buying it now might offset the math. We can check, but we are going to buy another warehouse building. We'll buy the brickyard because we are going to be using that. It does increase the pop here, but we are still on 3 turns, which is great. And the idea here being is that next turn we are going to grab this flat plains tile, and in doing so we're going to lock up the marble as well, and this settler, he will go crying all the way to the bank. He's going to be the saddest of all the settlers. So we pick up our Civic, arrival of the hoppy. We're very hoppy now, except for we're not hoppy at all because we're over the settlement limit, but also we do get an extra expansionist spot here, but we're going to change up our policies first. The +1 food on navigable rivers. I think we're currently working 5 navigable river tiles, and so this is going to represent a pretty high amount of happiness for us, but is it more worth some of this? Well, we are currently not constructing a wonder, although we want to be constructing a wonder. I think that this is not actually worth us slotting in, but it is just shy of worth us slotting in. In fact, maybe it's just a little bit better than the gold in all settlements, depending on which we put higher value on. I think we're about ready to move out here, and so what we're going to do, I said we're about ready to move out here, we're going to gather up the adjacent army, and we are going to look to march on Neapolis, hoping to raise it to the ground because we have an idea of a city we want to settle that's in a slightly better spot. We're also keeping an eye on this. We are now down to the same number of turns, and I don't know whose turn ticks first in terms of how things go, if it's our turn or their turn. That's something that we are up to discovering, but we do get a cultural point, so we're going to put that in here, which is going to be nice for us, and a little bit of a narrative where we are going to be rewarded it. So the situation has unfortunately changed where they are growing just a little bit faster than us, so we are faced with a decision whether we want to buy an altar or a saw pit. I think we're going to pick up an altar here. Maybe not the best square for an altar, but it'll be okay. We get extra growth rate in this if it becomes a city, but with that we lock in the fact that we will be receiving marble here, which is going to be good for us. We also unpack our army, seeing a slinger over here. We don't have the unpack and move yet, but we are going to be doing that. A little bit of a tornado is a little bit of a yikes. We will keep an eye on making sure that we repair anything that gets destroyed in there. But look, everyone's real unhappy, but fortunately coming in is going to be our unique building, the Mortuary Temple, where we are building it down here. It's going to give us a little bit of additional happiness, plus gold when we complete wonders in cities with it. I think that here we go for the little bit of extra we're going to get both of these. I think we're going to go for the growth rate first, and then we're going to go for this, giving us a little bit of gold. We do also get a resource assignment, so we can slot in, and I think that we would prefer food be in the capital. So let's see if we can move things around a little bit in order to, or sorry, food to be in the town and production to be in the capital. All other things equal, so we are going to prefer this here. And then the capital, we have a little bit of an eye on it in terms of what it's producing. We will get slightly slightly more out of this science than we will the culture, although culture is maybe more important to us right now because we are currently researching our civic that is going to... We're going to go with that, but we are researching our civic, which is going to give us +1 settlement limit and allow us to make use of this. Now, every time we buy a building, we acquire more and more stuff or we acquire more population, so we can already choose a specialization. I think we're going to keep growing just so we can try and get these camels as quickly as possible before choosing a specialization. For our commander, I think there are 2 choices that look particularly strong: maneuver, extra movement on the map, and assault. You can move right after unpacking. Considering we're at war with Frederick already, I think we're going to go for assault here, but if we were only fighting independence, we would go for maneuver, but assault I think is going to be a little bit useful for helping us avoid kind of nasty spots. We are also going to take out this slinger here, which is going to be good for us, and then this is maybe not exactly what we wanted to walk into. Seeing the double slinger is not exactly what we wanted. We do have the backup Magi here that was coming in, so I suppose we can fight him, and we do want to prevent any sort of settling and also take out this barb camp as well. It did get bugged out there, but it is still here, still ticking on down. I think that we could take this out with just the slinger and kind of divert the resources over here towards taking out this additional slinger from Barbarossa. We will be continuing to complete our mortuary temple in order to complete the necropolis here, and then be looking to push wonders in each of these now, especially since we have both our basic science and cultural buildings here, and we're ready to go. I think we can come in a little bit closer and we will see what exactly they do. Hopefully it's their worst, and by their worst I mean like actually their worst, not their worst where it really hurts. We do see that he doesn't go for killing the Magi. I think we're going to try and heal this guy up, and then move the slinger forward, and then use the other Magi to maybe heal up as well. We could go for the slinger, but then we would face certain defeat. We could go for this, but he doesn't appear to be moving it. But I think we're going to look to build some fortifications up here, and then move forward and build some fortifications as well. I think we're going to go for the food celebration. We only have like 1 more building in us in each of our cities, so I don't think we'll be able to get the full 10 turns of production out of both of these, and it's hard for the food to be bad. We will also be able to slot back in our +2 gold in each settlement. With 5 settlements, this is going to be, and it's going to play quite nice, feel quite nice. We went for this flat plains as well. They're looking to pick up the camels as quickly as possible instead of getting the marble, because we're currently not constructing a wonder, and so it won't be too big a deal, although the marble had pretty good yields. I think that we're okay. Yeah, I think we want to go for the culture, because we're still over settlement limit. This is going to take us off of being over the settlement limit, so this is going to be useful for us. Not going to specialize there until we get to the point where we can put in... where we can put in the camels. So we do see our Magi is starting to get wrecked a little bit, and we also are now able to take this down here. So I think we're going to disperse the independent and gain a bunch of science, which is going to unlock that. And then we are going to look to try and swap places with the Magi, moving him onto the fortified terrain, and then move forward so that we can fortify that up as well. We're healing up this Magi and back. I think we can get this combat such a way that we kill the slinger without losing our guy, but maybe if he focus fires down, he will be able to get the better of us here. For this, we are going to primarily look for the very strongest yields overall, with a little bit of an emphasis towards production, but some are just too hard to pass up. This is like 3 yields here with 2 production, but we could alternatively get, you know, this 6 yields, where I think this is already flooded a couple times, something like that, on the farm. I think this will be more useful for us overall, but this navigable river, even better. This is 6 yields with a little bit of production, a little bit of happiness, so we're going to go for that, and that will feel good. And also, we are going to be able to construct either a market or a bath, but the market in particular is going to be useful for giving us an additional assignment in terms of resources. We are currently wish we had more assignable resources, and we gain a bonus placing it next to a navigable river. I think we're going to put it here. This is going to brick our ability to have a woodcutter. Maybe there's a slightly better tile that we could put it on, maybe a little bit over here. This bricks our ability to have a farm. I think that's slightly better for us. We're getting a bonus from the southwest from being adjacent to the Wonder, rather than being adjacent to this navigable river, but it's going to be hard for us to get an adjacency to the navigable river unless we go for this. I think we'll just go for this spot here, not looking to brick some of the better tiles that we are working, and we'll have a little bit of a look as to what we can grab in here. Production on production buildings is a little bit attractive. The science on science buildings also attractive. We do want a codex. We don't really have anything too crazy good coming in here. We could build villas. I'm not exactly sure if the villas is exactly what we're looking for. I think what we'll do is we will take a look at what wonders are available, and maybe come back with a bit of a decision. I guess it's actually only this wonder, and this one would go pretty well in our city off to the left, where it is rewarding us for having a lot of fishing boats, and so I think that that's going to be pretty nice. We don't have it yet. We also could have gotten +1 adjacency for science buildings in terms of going on to, actually this text takes so long, maybe it just is mastery here, +1 science on science buildings. We have 2 science buildings currently. I wish we had a unique science building, which we don't. We have a unique happiness building and a unique gold building, so going for these is going to make a little bit more sense, but this mastery option is just a little bit on the cheap side and will help us out by giving us a little codex here. For this, we are going to continue to do assault, but we are going to choose the chain for ranged units, looking to get to the end so that we can get a nice little commendation point. So having completed our final cultural civic, we're now working on Code of Laws, which will unlock our ability to build a Petra. This is going to feel quite nice here, but we also get this narrative choice where we could choose between building new statues and rebranding the old ones. We're going to choose the new statues because this will unlock for us a bonus towards building wonders, which is going to be pretty nice for what we're going for and rewarding us for what we have in terms of our unique district, or our unique quarter rather, which gives us 100 gold when any wonder is completed in the city. We're also, in terms of the gold, saving up a little bit. I think that we do want to convert stuff to cities. We might even Commento in particular is feeding, I think, both of these cities in terms of where the food is going. No, it's only going to Waset. We wish it was also going up here, but Gebetu might make a little bit of a better city as our next city. Also, so might Abju. But this will give us more options in terms of building wonders, is a little bit of the tension, but there's really not a lot of production for us here. I suppose we can slot in resources that will help on the production front, and so maybe that's what we end up doing. Man, this slinger feels like he does infinite damage. I don't know what bonuses that this guy has cooked up. I guess it's just the 8 difficulty bonus to combat from the AI on top of determined ability and military aid, but he hurts so bad. We are going to take a little bit of a shot at him though, and I think we should be able to take him out this turn, or very nearly. Hopefully he can't return kill our slinger here, and we are going to look to heal our guys up before marching on Neapolis, or maybe we just look to call the war off. I think that this guy would maybe be amenable to just a regular peace. We do want to burn down Neapolis, but maybe this is just more effort than it's worth. As long as we don't have to put any more additional resources into that war though, I think we are okay letting it continue. We have a little bit of an interesting choice. Lapis Lazuli is good, but we have plenty of resources to slot in, so this isn't the problem. We're not planning on getting a bunch of suzerains though, so maybe Lapis Lazuli is the best we can do. We can also go Emporium, allows the construction. It gets +2 gold and 2 gold in cities if they have at least 1 resource assigned to them. So this can be, you know, +4, but I think that we're going to go with the Lapis Lazuli, and this will be another resource we could slot in, but we are starting to accumulate. But the Lapis Lazuli is going to be significantly better than either of these, which are just generating us kind of 1 science or 1 culture, at least for right now, at least until we can find a better alternative, and so this is going to be nice for us. We are at a crossroads where we must choose between being conservative and building the pyramids in here, getting an absolute wondrous wonder, or being greedy. I think we are going to be greedy. The pyramids would be so much better in Kamenu, and what we are going to do in Kamenu is we are going to first buy a saw pit, because we're going to want a saw pit, and then as soon as we are able to make this a city, we're going to make this a city and plop down the pyramids right here, which is going to give us 3 potential adjacencies for future buildings being adjacent to a wonder, but also Kamenu is going to be working 9 tiles, or sorry, it's going to have 5 tiles, I don't know where the 9 came from, 5 tiles that will be affected by the pyramid, as opposed to just 3 in the capital. So it will be considerably better there, but we will have to save up an additional 200 gold to upgrade this into a city to get things going there, but we want the additional construction from the building there immediately. And then in here, we are going to build the Tejati, which are just going to complete in 1 turn, and these guys can help us to push wonders along and finish wonders faster, and so this is what we will spend our construction on. We hope we roll the unique guys who will allow us to finish wonders faster. That way we can push out a very fast pyramids in here after making this just fresh into a new city. Our growth comes in, and with it does our camels, allowing us to slot in all the stuff in Waset. However, we are likely going to be moving these camels over to Kamenu when we make it a city. That way we can maximize production there. We get Lafayette, where he is giving us 12 gold. Man, this seems spectacular. We will also, I suppose, be making friends with Lafayette, who is very poor in the corner. He might have 2 cities. I have a sneaking suspicion he's on 1, and the AI can't sort their way out of that sort of conundrum there. So we have a great person here who will create a codex for us that grants us +3 science. Gonna be very nice. We have another great person coming in next turn, and another one on the following turn, except that's not quite how that works, but now we are going to be able to convert to city, and very nicely it is also 50 cheaper, so that's gonna be good. We will upgrade this town into a city, and we will start production on the pyramids here, hoping to roll some of those guys who will allow us to rush the pyramids just a little bit faster and get that in. Unfortunately for us, we aren't going to have our district here, so we're not going to get the free gold unless we can purchase both of these buildings in time. That's going to cost us 700 gold, and so maybe if we beeline it, we could do something like that, but our gold income has gone down by about 30 just as soon as we turned this into a city, because of course we're not getting the town gold from it anymore. A little bit of a yikes here in that someone else is competing with us for the pyramids, but we also see that the time on the pyramids has been greatly reduced. I suppose this means that the extra production that we are receiving from our various modifiers, I think we have 1 elephant that is reducing the time, and also we have a couple other things that give additional production towards wonders, specifically towards the pyramids from our cultural bonus. This is helping us to be producing this considerably faster, but I think that our great person, they're not going to be able to get to this before 6 turns, so we just hope that 6 turns is good enough. This guy will create 2 cavalry units with +3 combat strength. That sounds pretty good to me. We will start moving these guys down towards our general. I don't think he'll need to be in the city center for there, and these guys are just healing up before they load up and ship out for raising Capua, we hope. Capua should be a little bit easier to raise, but we would prefer to raise Neapolis. Maybe we go for Neapolis anyways, especially because we have this cavalry guy coming in. I think that that'll maybe make some sense. So changed our mind a little bit here, and we do see, hey, they're starting to come on out, and so we do have to keep an eye on them. What is this? Was ist this? Well, okay, so now we have a little bit of an interesting imperative in that this guy, I don't think he has rights of passage through either of us, so we can body block him from being able to settle beneath us, Lafayette. As long as we can keep him off of any reasonable settling square, he will avoid settling. So maybe we come in and try and set up a defensive perimeter. One of the problems for us here, just in the abstract sense, is man, do they have a lot of combat, and man, do they hurt. Looks like, oh, we have to be on a tile that we own. So we'll come over here in order to activate, but we will get ready and set up for trying to block Lafayette from moving his settler down here, because we want to keep this area for ourselves, and also trying to set ourselves up for fighting Frederick. We could always peace out with Frederick. He was willing to just give us Capua for nothing, at least at the start of the turn. Now he will not, but he will be willing to peace out for nothing, which is maybe a situation that we want, given that we want to finesse the settler here. Womp womp, Hatshepsut has finished the pyramids. A bit unfortunate, but even if we produced the pyramids out of the capital, we wouldn't have gotten them done in time. We do have this guy. He can add 3 culture to the palace. I suppose this will be a little bit of a conciliatory prize. Unfortunately, it seems like we can't body block him, and so I think what we need to do in order to be able to fight Frederick, because he has way too much combat stats, is going to be to fall back to our own territory. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a pot shot there, and then we are going to gather up all the adjacent units and start to ship it back into our territory. It does look like we're going to get a consolation prize in being able to gank this settler, though. I think this merchant is not a real merchant. He's not a real boy. He hasn't made a trade route. He's just been sitting there for forever mocking us. I think the AI wanted to make a trade route with us, and then they declared war on us, which is a bit unfortunate, but now we will be kind of falling back to a bit of a different position to see if we can make a good defense against Frederick. We could white peace with him now, and maybe this is what we're supposed to do. We don't really want to gain or be spending resources on units, but I think that we're kind of also in okay shape. Hopefully the settler falls to the barbarian, though, and we don't have to deal with Lafayette to the south. Frederick withdrew, so we've had a couple of quiet turns. We do pip Silk Roads, the next progression here, after slotting some stuff in. This is looking like this is probably going to be where we are going to have a really strong advantage or potential for a golden age. We do have a lot of resources slot in. We have a lot of really strong resources with these 2/2s rather than stuff like Silk, which is a little bit weaker here in the early game as we continue to push. Unfortunately, we see this, which is the shame and ruin of perhaps our nation in the future, but we have great hopes for barbarians. Now, we could incite them to attack, but I think they're already attacking, so we will take a little bit of a gander at what happens, and if these guys continue to get pushed. It looks like they are, and maybe the barbs take these guys out. We are going for our first trade route on Hatshepsut, which is going to net us some nice stuff in the terms of getting an iron, which is going to help us to continue to fight Frederick, a camel, which is going to allow us to slot in more stuff, and the wine is also kind of nice here. We're going to make sure, double sure, that we are making a trade route to the right spot. We are getting 3 resources. This is the only 3 resource thing that we will have, and so we will have ourselves a trade here. I think we're going to go for asking for directions, because we're hopelessly lost. These guys are about to lose the city, it looks like. We won't slot in the camels yet, because we don't have anything behind, but we do have resources that we've not yet exploited, like the dyes here, the silks here, and now that we have available slots off the back of the camels, we will be able to go for those. We've also started to upgrade some of our boys, and we see the buy get flipped into an indie state, so now we'll probably just burn it to the ground. We could alternatively, I think we can take it. I'm not 100% sure the rules on this. I think once it becomes an independent city rather than one of these boys, that it is takeable, and it is on a pretty good spot where we would be getting the gypsum, the sheep, the other gypsum, and the marble, and so maybe we come down for that, and we look to say, hey, that's our town now, yoink. So Abju, now that we have the gypsum from there, we have all the yields we want. We went ahead and bought a little bit of a brickyard, but we are ready now to swap it to being a mining town, which is going to give us additional +4 production, and on top of that, the 15% extra yields we have on towns that have a focus, and so we're earning 20 right now, and this pops up to 31, so a nice little increase here. It is still feeding Jeanette, I do believe, in terms of where the food is now going, and this food to Jeanette is going to help Jeanette grow quite quickly here. We have 12 turns on the growth, but now they are receiving food coming in from Abju, which is going to be fantastic for us now. The barbs end up razing that city to the dirt, which works well and fine enough for us. We also achieve the next tier of military units, so we are getting those guys locked in before we start setting out on maybe trying to push Neapolis. It would be quite nice, maybe we marched a little too far forward, it would be quite nice for us to be able to get a siege unit, that way we could look to push the military golden age, which does require capturing a settlement, but also we do have to eventually train a siege unit, I think, to progress through one of these in terms of the requirement. Assemble a full army, we have done that, but here train a siege unit is going to be the next step for us, and we can come in and do that. We are building a unique person here, and we've swapped over here to now building the Oracle. We hope that we're able to get that done, and maybe the unique unit that we have here will be able to help us rush production here. We're just kind of cruising along, building primarily our unique district here, which will scale well into the late game. We also built a bath here for the additional growth rate. In terms of our city size, we have a 20 city, a 12 city, and a 16 city, all citied, and comparing it to other people in terms of how they're doing, we have an 18 city from Roma, from Frederick, and that is their only city. Hatshepsut has 3 cities, a 17, 12, 14, so she's in pretty good shape, also with 5 settlements as well. And then, of course, we have Lafayette with a single settlement right here, just sitting very sadly. That is the reason why we cannot send him a farmer's market. He lacks a town with which to make use of that, but it's also, incidentally, size 18, which is smaller than ours. So we reach a bit of a critical point here with Frederick, where we are going to be fighting him, so we'll take a couple boosts with our Diplo, even things out a little bit before we unload the clip into him. Let's take a look at deploy. We will deploy our army here, and they will be able to move immediately because we have that thing slot in to be able to do that, and we'll take a little bit of a go at his commander here. The archers should be able to finish the job here, and so we will. And so that's one commander down, and we will be moving on to the archer and laying siege to Neapolis. We are pushing in here, grabbing a little bit of pew-pew on the archers. I think we're going to heal up with this guy, slide everyone on over as they get deeper and deeper into Neapolis. I'm not seeing any other units, and we kind of have the 2 chariots that we got from our unique unit on lookout here, looking to make sure nothing too suspicious happens. Very suspicious is this settler coming in. Also, we got Imhotep as our unique unit, which will allow us to rush this wonder and complete it in one go here, which is going to be quite nice for us. So while we cannot build wonders, or in times that we can't build wonders, what we can do is we can build some more of these unique units in order to get us to a spot where we can build the unique wonders. So really enjoying Egypt here for being able to push these guys. Incidentally, this will also give us an additional 100 gold in the capital. We spent a pretty good amount of gold on upgrading units. Now I think what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking to build stuff in towns with our gold, but we've already spent quite a bit in our various towns to purchase a lot of the buildings here, and so this is going to be a little bit rough for us in terms of finding an acceptable spot. I suppose we could go for an altar, but the altars are going to be particularly good on cities specifically because this is giving growth rate in cities. This is not a city unless it meant to say settlement, and so I think that we made a little bit of a mistake with our Pantheon choice, not really being too valuable, although the really fast growth rate in our cities, it is a little bit nice. With our first trade with one of these city-states, we do get a very nice economic attribute point, which is going to allow us to generate a little bit more gold, but get us closer to some really good bonuses, which we will be having coming on up. If for this, we have gotten ourselves a little bit of a date. Everyone loves some dates, and we will be able to put them into our city. Our little bit of a lookout chariot pays off quite nicely, as we will be able to go for some damage on this settler. We have a nice little defensive setup here where they can only attack us from the city, or they can come across here to get their movement stopped because it's on a river, which stops their movement, and then we will bombard them with archers, so really low surface area while simultaneously getting to pew-pew them quite a bit. We also get one of our unique great person, Mr. K here, who can activate to create 2 upgraded Magi's, which is going to help us defend Jeanette against any sort of aggression that's coming in through here. We are continuing to produce these guys, trying to set ourselves up for when we get wonders, except here in Kamenu, where we are filling out our buildings, our suite of buildings. But I think that we are getting close to the point where we want to convert something to another city because we have a lot of gold, and we see there's an enormous amount of construction here in Abju, which would make this a very fine city. And so I think we're going to take a look and see it's not growing anytime soon, so we are going to make it a city right now, which will allow us to make some decisions as to what we want to produce here. Almost certainly going for our unique building, although not going to have the best adjacencies as there's neither desert nor navigable terrain, and maybe it's actually honestly not worth... I mean, we would be doing it for the base values here, which are not absolutely spectacular, or the adjacencies for the wonders. We get another upgrade on our army commander. We're going to go for the combat strength for its siege units, looking to push for the final advancement in this category. We also got an agreement with Hatshepsut, which gave her wonder bonus. We decided to not do the mutual wonder construction bonus because we felt that we wanted to have more accumulated influence in case we wanted to boost or support our war with Frederick. But I think that maybe we just hang on to the influence and see what we need from there. We're not generating as much happiness, but maybe the happiness is a little bit less important. We've swapped back to producing settlers here, which is going to be good. I think we probably should have swapped back to the settlers earlier rather than building more and more of these unique people. The idea being that we could probably oversettle and it wouldn't be the end of the world, go over the settlement limit, considering we don't really have the best social policies available, and so getting another celebration while the food is pretty nice, maybe not super pressing in terms of not avoiding settling cities to avoid unhappiness, but it also does decrease yields, so it's probably okay for us to just be sticking to the settlement limit, but we should have worked on the settler earlier. But we do have Neapolis here, which is on the verge of falling. We will not be taking it this turn because there is a unit in there, but we will be able to start going after it, and we still do have 2 archers, so almost certainly they are going to be on the chopping block, although they do have reinforcements kind of coming in here. We have a guy fortified. I think that if we look at the combat strength difference, we have more combat strength than he does because we have upgraded units or more upgraded unit, or this was a unique unit that was produced by one of these guys, and so he has more combat stats. Also, K is coming on over. Everyone knows every kiss begins with K, and he's coming to bring us more of these Magi units because that is his activatable, so we are going to be able to sack Neapolis and then hopefully send the settler we produce over here to pick up the camels, something like this. We could alternatively take Neapolis. It's not the end of the world. We have been pillaging their tiles to force the population down to make it a faster sack, but it's not unreasonable for us to take the city because we would be losing out on a horse in terms of looking at the tiles that we're getting, but what we would get is we would still get I think they have control over this here. Or is it in Roma? It is in Roma. That's actually unfortunate. If the camels are in Roma, us picking this up is much less important just in a general sense, and maybe this war was all for naught. The war was for camels, but the camels can't be had. I think we're going to wrap up the episode here. We did get a good amount of progress. It feels like we're in a very solid spot, getting a lot of pop growth, really expanding things out, and we are up to 4 cities, which is pretty strong. So we are also in these cities pushing a lot of the buildings. This is probably where a lot of our economics goes for the foreseeable future. Into Abju, we're probably going to use gold to buy buildings that are now eligible eligible to be purchased because it's a city, and look to kind of max out all of these. I feel that we're doing pretty well relative to the AI, although we did lose a couple wonders to Hatshepsut, which always does feel quite bad. And she is a little bit ahead of us, and she might be pushing even more wonders. I'm hoping that we are able to go for the Colosseum here, and I'm hoping that we will, with this unique guy that is being produced, produce someone who is capable of rushing a wonder to help us, to put us in a good position to be able to do that. But I do think that we're maybe pulling ahead of her in the culture game. It's hard to tell. She does have a couple silks. She has 3 cities. She is definitely the next strongest player, certainly ahead of Frederick, who only has a single city, and Lafayette, who only has a single settlement. Overall, I feel that we've kind of kept these guys down to some extent, trying to disrupt various cities and these types of things, but mostly it's just been growth off the back of our high pop explosive start, which feels pretty good. As far as legacy path progress goes, we're doing okay-ish in the various categories. I really don't know if we'll be able to push 7 wonders, which is kind of what we are hoping for. We'll probably be able to push this a couple of ranks and maybe golden. We will almost certainly be able to golden if we science carefully, but we don't want to push it too much initially, because we want to avoid triggering the end of the era, the end of the age, and then we are in really good shape for economic, especially if we manage to get a couple more camels. But we, despite really only trading with 2 spots, this city-state here and also Hatshepsut in her city with camels, we are still able to slot a lot of stuff in because we have cities that just have so many slottable resources. We have 1, 2, I think it's just those 2 in this city, or I guess 3 with camels. Also coming in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I think it's just those 2, and then 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 13, 14, 15. So we have a total of 15 slottables, and we can certainly pick up another few down here and make it possible for us to golden age quite easily on the economics. And so that's probably what we'll be doing next episode, is wrapping up this age. We have 60% age progress, and so it's not going to be too much longer until the end of the age, and so that's what we have to look forward to. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and other than that, have a good one.